Buongiorno a tutte e a tutti, il prossimo panel Agentic AI Nuova Frontiera sarà in inglese, come vedete c'è un codice QR per chi volesse la versione tradotta in italiano. So I switch to English, welcome everybody to Wired Health 2025 once again. So now we have a speech about the frontier of Agentic AI, and we have this speech with a guy that 7 years ago predicted what now we call the DeepSeek moment. So the moment of the arrival of an AI in an open source moment. So today is here in Milan with us to try to describe us what's going on about Agentic AI and maybe to give us some future predictions and perspectives about what's going on. Of course, all of this impacts on the whole value chain of healthcare, so it's interesting in this particular moment to understand which will be the real impact of AI agents on all the people and all the patients and, of course, healthcare professionals dealing with AI in their everyday life in healthcare. So let me introduce, thanking for being here, Bart de Witte.
Morning.
Welcome to Wired Health 2025. Bart de Witte is the CEO and founder of Isare, that is a startup. Maybe we'll talk about it later, but now let's introduce the topic of AI agents and what's going on. Thank you, Bart.
Okay, thank you so much.
Stage is yours.
Good morning. I'm just waiting for my slides to appear. Oh, this is too far. Just a minute. Yeah. I don't know what happened. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to talk about AI agents, and I'm going to start with a provocative statement, as always. And I think the future of medicine is not in the hands of doctors. It's not in the hands of nurses. It's not in the hands of patients. It's not in the hands of technologists, but it's probably in the hands of policymakers. And I think we need to write policies in order to grab the value that AI is going to create, and I will show a few studies later. But Agentic AI, everybody talks about it, and it's a bit like teenage sex. Everybody says they had it, but nobody knows how to do it. And so I start with telling what AI agents really are, or explaining. Agentic means that there is some sort of autonomy, so these systems can decide for themselves and take decisions without human intervention. That might sound scary. There was even an AI agent that was able on Twitter to create a hype and then raise the stock prices of a certain meme coin, and it became the first agentic AI system that became a millionaire in just a few months. But in healthcare, we take a lot of decisions, and a lot of these decisions can be automated. So these systems are based mostly on LLMs. There are also other AI agents. They can think and deconstruct a problem and decompose that in certain tasks. And then they use tools. They can use an EMR system, they can use a website, they can use whatever a human would use when they interact with computers. And then they reflect on the outcome, and they can improve themselves. So that sounds very theoretical, so I'm going to directly show an example. The example is about an AI agent that needs to call a patient in order after a post-surgery, a liver surgery, and had to check in on the patient. So the patient is at home. The hospital doesn't want that patient readmitted into the hospital, so you want to do a checkup. So this is an example of an agent calling a patient at home.
Hello, good morning. Am I speaking to Mr. David Bennett?
Yes, this is David.
Hi, David. I'm Eva from Riverside Clinic on a recorded line. I am your designated healthcare agent calling on behalf of Dr. Thompson, your gastroenterologist.
Oh, okay, hi.
I am calling because Dr. Thompson wanted me to check in on you regarding your recent liver surgery. Do you have a few minutes to chat?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Great. For identity confirmation, could you please confirm your date of birth?
Okay.
Sure, it's March 3rd.
I'm not going to go further because I don't have the time, but the whole story here is that the agent is checking the symptoms, is checking the medication, and automatically documents that into the electronic health record system. And if there is something that is an outlier, it writes an email to the doctor to bring that patient in for a consultation. Fully automated without any human being involved. Now you can have an army of those, and you can have 10,000 of these AI agents calling patients. Some are doing that for incoming requests on appointments or whatever, but it is pretty crazy to hear that voice and to hear that this is actually perhaps more friendly than the assistant of my doctor and has more time than the assistant of my doctor. And what we are seeing is that in healthcare, these agents are becoming very rapidly deployed. And we did an analysis, what are the agents that have a high impact and need a low effort to build, and the ones that need a substantial higher effort. The ones that are the higher effort are, of course, the most exciting ones, because we could have agents that finally realize the dream of precision medicine, an agent that looks into a molecular database or that would check drug interactions. But we're starting with a lot of the administrative stuff, like writing letters, doing triage, or perhaps coding and improving the income of a hospital. And this is an example of an agent that is built up or set up for precision medicine, which we are discussing with the country of Estonia, where we have different agents that collect data, doing biomarker analysis, a drug response agent, a treatment agent, a patient monitoring agent, a human interaction agent, and a system learning agent. And all these agents are being orchestrated together, and the user experience is just similar to ChatGPT, and it's a chat flow. In the back end, there is a lot of automation happening, and these agents have a certain level of autonomy. We have 3 levels of autonomy, and fully autonomous, you need to have a research PhD level autonomy, and none of the agents can do that today. So we are still in the process of building these technologies. One of the most used agents today is what we call the medical scribe, an agent that listens to a patient conversation, physician-patient conversation, and automatically documents everything what the patient tells and what the physician tells, so the patient doesn't need, or the physician doesn't need to write anymore. Now these startups, these are all startups in Europe, are now adding things like adding a command that you can build the case, or you can ask for clinical decisions. And in the back end, these are all different agents that are being pulled in. Now, the problem is that, of course, this is AI, and AI is always probabilistic. And it means that it will always make little mistakes, even when you do voice transcription. So there was a paper that came out that made all the headlines in the newspapers, and said, we have to stop this. And I said, well, this misses the reality, because in reality, if we look at EMR records, 20% of the actual records where we use a keyboard and where the physician is documenting today have errors. We see a lot of manual documentation errors when it comes to medication, which can lead to complications. So these systems are already better than the actual standard that we are using. Yes, they are not perfect, but I think the biggest study that has been done was at Kaiser Permanente, where they had 3,000 physicians using a scribe, and there were 3 outcomes. The first one was, of course, you need less time to document, and you win more time for patients. But the second thing was that these doctors could look into the eyes of a patient. And the patient, when they interviewed them, said, I felt better treated because the doctor was actually there for me, and there was no screen in between of us. And the third outcome, perhaps the most valuable as a provider, is that the system collects way more data, so, which is valuable for billing. And I've collected 100 of case studies, and there is so much value that you can create today in terms of creating income, making healthcare safer, making the life of these clinicians better. And it's then all the question on how we're going to deploy this. Now, this is a provocation. I made this with an AI yesterday. But I see the policymakers going in, I live in Germany, going to Brazil and trying to find a special visa program to attract nurses from Brazil. We discussed it yesterday at table as well. How ethical is it when we, as Western countries, take the resources away from these countries in order to start filling up the gaps that we have, and we have gaps. So I think we need a new policy narrative. We don't need special visa programs to extract these resources from other countries who need them as well, I think we need to start working on deploying agents. And I tell this with confidence because the Chamber of Nurses in Germany contracted me in December to do a study, and we used agents for the study. So we looked in all the publications that were out there on the value that has been proven in research, what these agents bring in the nursing process. Then we matched that to the activities of the nurses, and we scaled and extrapolated this on whole of Germany. And the value that we create is equivalent to, and we could implement it until 2030, is equivalent to 300 to 500,000 nurses. Now, in Germany, we are missing 200,000 nurses. This is not about replacing nurses with AI. This is about solving our problems. This is about taking care of society. This is not about job replacement and taking all these fears in the population. So we need to start using these systems in order to update our systems. And in the US, there is a company called Hippocratic AI, nearly similar to my Hippo AI Foundation. And they are selling nurses, virtual nurses, at $9 an hour. Now, I think they will never keep that price, but what you see happening is that we are selling virtual resources. And you can go on Hippocratic's website and you can shop 450 specially trained AI agents and nurses that also integrate into the EMR system and ask pre-operative or pre-surgery the patient, educate him, or collect data. So each single agent is specialized on one single task. And I think this is amazing that this is happening, because at the beginning I said, like, policies is probably the biggest thing we should focus on in order to help our systems. And I have this provocative slide, but if you look at what policies did in the US, you had in 1982 the DRG billing system, then you had the HIPAA compliance, then you had the HITECH Act, and every time we created policies, the orange curve is the number of administrators we need in order to do this. Now, if you look at the orange curve and you look at the blue curve, which is the number of physicians treating patients, we now have a ratio for treating one physician, one patient of 1 to 18 administrators. 30 years ago, this was 1 to 3. So policies created a huge overhead, and now we need to take AI to diminish that overhead. Otherwise, we are not able to finance our nurses, we're not able to finance our hospitals, we're not able to finance the physicians. Now, the second part is AI assistance. When I've been working with AI since 2010 at my time at IBM, and I used to work for SAP before, and everybody who has used an SAP system knows this statement. SAP has probably the worst user interface and user experience ever. So what we did is training humans to act like robots in order to fill these databases, and yes, that was needed for these systems, but in AI, we need a different approach. We need systems that are more dynamic. We want to use natural language. We don't want to structure our thoughts into boxes. And we need as well to balance the autonomy of an AI system and the human in the loop, like, I want to always be in control of these systems as a doctor. So I'm going to show you an example of pathology AI. And everybody has seen digital pathology, sees these user interfaces. And this is an AI that uses something like ChatGPT, and they have called PetChat. And they put it on the microscope, and it takes images, and you start chatting with your data. You start chatting with intelligence, with an abstraction layer of intelligence. And this shows for me where the future of user interaction will be. It won't be the user interface. It won't be the classical software. It will be something like an assistant, a UI that talks to you. And so we are reversing that what we did, and we are teaching machines to become more human, so we don't have that friction between machines and humans and don't lose all these efforts. Now, I was in Switzerland a few months ago, and one of the university hospitals created an oncology board conference AI assistant that is based on different AI agents. And This is an oncology board software. I've known this since 20 years. It's difficult to build. And they just had a chatbot. And they asked the system, can you prepare the patient? Can you match it with guidelines? Can you look into the clinical trial databases in one single UI experience into a chatbot? I interviewed these oncologists. They said they never want to go back to software. They only want to be assisted by something that feels like a mentor. Now, people are telling, and there's always negativism against AI, and then this is an Italian paper, is AI then making us stupid if we have these assistants? And I bring this in there because it's hopeful. Everybody remembers this moment where Sedol Lee was beaten by DeepMind, and finally AI got the next milestone for beating humans in a certain complexity. And what happened after that is quite fascinating because all the players of Go were able to play against an AI. And now there are research papers out there that are analyzing the quality of these players when they are not working with AI. So they have been training with AI, but they don't, in the test they don't have AI. And what you see is that they become 25% better as before. So this, before these green balls go up, this was the pre-AlphaGo moment. And then suddenly these players had an AI to play against with, and they became 25% better. Now translate this into healthcare. Translate that we build AI systems more like a mentor and not like a replacer. And we all have a mentor. Like, people say that AI is going to augment us. Now, augmentation has the word mentor in there. So mentorship, is that what we need? And that's what we need to design these systems. And most successful people always have been mentored. And I find it quite fascinating that we can democratize that mentorship of successful people to each single one individual. So each of you will be able to get access to a mentor that is as smart as Einstein or somebody else. Now, this is all the positive. There is, of course, there is negative as well. And this has to do with security and data hunger. I don't know if anybody remembered at the beginning of ChatGPT, there was an employee from Samsung who kind of uploaded secret or documents, and suddenly they were spread across the world. And everybody realized, well, ooh, this is an extraction system that sucks all the data. Now, if you deploy these agents into your healthcare hospital, then you need to watch out because these agents can consolidate, they can aggregate data, they can learn, they talk to each other in a language you probably don't understand. So before deploying 10,000s of these agents in your hospital, you probably might check how you're going to deal with security and compliance and data protection and everything what we need in order to deploy this. And this is the reason why I set up my new company. So we're building actually that platform that allows, we don't build any agents ourselves. We are deploying a sort of operating system for healthcare, which will be open sourced and creating open standards. But this is a missing link. We need a platform where we have the producers and the consumers together, similar to what we did with Spotify. And that means that we are standing in front of a large transformation, and a transformation that I've, since 25 years, not seen in such a positive sense. And I truly mean it that we need the right policies. I'm a big fan of what Mario Draghi said during the European Commission on the Europeans' competitiveness. And he looked at how productive our productivity per capita is per GDP. And we in Europe stagnated where the US went up. And that has mostly to do because all the big tech platforms are in the US and they take the productivity gains and that is being transferred across the Atlantic. Now in healthcare, it would be a shame that we don't do this and keep these productivity gains in Europe, but then we need different policies. I'm a huge critical person against the AI Act, against a lot of these policies that have been framed because they are not advancing us. They are not accelerating us, and 80% of the hospitals in Germany are now using a Chinese DeepSeek model that should make us think what we are doing wrong. And with this said, I thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward for the conversation. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Bart, for telling us how much this AI transformation and agentic AI transformation is transforming not only technology, but culture, most of all. So let's have this conversation. I am inviting on stage Professor Carlo Tacchetti. Please join us. Thank you very much for being here at Wired Health.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Hello. Carlo Tacchetti is a professor of human anatomy and the director of the strategic program of AI at Università Vita-Salute San Raffaele and group leader of the unit of cancer imaging at San Raffaele Hospital. So we have started this conversation about the impact of AI in the different part of the healthcare system. Let's give a look at the healthcare research. There's a lot of work and also a lot of talk about how AI is entering in this field of technology and of science. But the real question maybe is, how do we create an effective impact on patients?
Yes, well, first of all, thank you for the invitation and good morning to everyone. So a few days ago, I made a PubMed search adding two terms. One was artificial intelligence and one was medicine on PubMed. And I retrieved over 100,000 publications, including artificial intelligence and medicine from 1995 to 2025. Then I decided to see how many of these academic publications were actually deployed in practice. And I went to search on the FDA site, and I found only 950 devices based on machine learning and artificial intelligence from 1995 to 2025, meaning 950 devices out of 100,000 publications. So there is certainly a discrepancy for what we search for and we publish and what we actually deploy in practice. Then the curiosity was, why do we fail? I mean, why do we have so many publications and so few medical devices? So most of these medical devices are diagnostic devices. They are in the imaging area, the majority of them, but none of them is able now to answer questions like, can I predict whether this disease in this specific patient will relapse or will progress or will regress? So which is the prognostic feature, the prognostic model to predict the fate of this patient? Or can I predict whether a given patient with a specific disease will actually respond to a standard of care or therapy? And the other thing is that most of these solutions in imaging, they are able to discriminate black and whites, but all the gray area where the physician is mostly interested in, black and whites, any physician can discriminate it. It's actually complicated. So, and the third point is, and which is the one I want to stress more, and is many of these publications have biases in data selection and in responsible AI. We will, I think, talk about this more. So why data selection? When you have what I call the AI people working on medical solution, there is a major problem. When we apply AI in processes that are made by humans, like automotive or aerospatial and so on, we made the routes, we made the rockets, we know the physics, and we can simulate. We know nothing about medicine. We don't know very much about how a human body works. We know very little about how diseases work. There are variables we don't even know they exist. So you need an expert of domain when you analyze data. Each data is a specific significance. On the other hand, there are clinicians that want to use AI without having the expertise, and so they make mistakes on the other side. So most of these papers have this combination of problems. And the last point, they have not been designed to be applied in an hospital. And so the deployment is quite difficult. And I think the solution is to join dominion competences, expertise, AI people and physicians. The key point is ask the right question. The right question has to be mathematically modelable, and then you start analyzing the data, the significance of the data related to the field, which is medicine, and then you progress. As long as we don't have these joint forces, I think we will still have a lot of academic publication, but very few deployed solutions.
Thank you. The problem is very clear, and you say one of the challenges is how to deploy the solution. So I'll go back to Bart, because you mentioned in your keynote speech about how this AI wave is transforming the everyday work of healthcare professionals. But what do you think, let's say, in a midterm prediction, so 5 years, 10 years, how do you think all of this will change the way doctors and nurses practice every day in hospitals? Do we have a substitution risk? Do we have the merging of different professionalities?
Yes, thank you for asking the question. And if you look at physicians' tasks today or nurses, like nurses are 70% of their time working on some sort of administrative, coordinative, or documentation part. They're not caring for patients. If you look at physicians, they are 50% of their time working on patients. A lot of their time is spending in administrative tasks. So if the thesis that you said that AI deployment is only because we are matching or not matching the clinicians with the AI people, then we would have seen AI deployment in the administrative side, which we don't see. So we have a general problem in how to adopt AI in healthcare, because if in administration you don't need to publish 10 papers in order to prove that this is an AI agent that can automate. So I think in that part, there is huge potential because there is less controversy if you don't touch on clinical, and we need new systems. And these systems are not software. We are all being hijacked by the electronic medical record systems that clinicians use, and they tend to monopolize the interaction with the clinician. And so where I believe where the future will be is that we will shift away from these monolithic systems to systems of engagement which are an assistant. You will have an assistant that communicates with different other agents and that can orchestrate things for you. And that assistant is working in natural language. So in 5 to 10 years, I believe that every nurse and every doctor will have an assistant. Now, the question is, with who does that assistant communicate? And I think that will be free and open. I hope it will be not monolithic, that you have to use one single system like we had in the past. And I see a movement in Europe. There is two sort of systems, a second system emerging. There is a new electronic medical record, which is where we have an open data layer based on open EHR standards, which is an open standard for electronic health records. Like Catalonia, Karolinska, and a lot of others are building now a new way of dealing with clinical information. So they are building an open data layer, putting on top applications or AI agents, and then putting up or UIs or assistants. So I believe we will have a network of assistants, data layers that are accessible and open, and I hope we accelerate the thing. In terms of the displacement of jobs, that's what always is being, I think, I ask myself, which displacement? Because we are lacking so much resources. We are lacking in the whole of Europe at the moment 700,000 nurses. We are lacking 400,000 physicians. Which displacements are we discussing in healthcare? There is no displacement. We are displacing the nurses that we take from Brazil, or the US took during COVID 8,000 doctors away from Egypt. And Egypt suddenly had 10% less doctors because we displaced them to the US. That is not ethical. So we need to start rethinking and using this.
Thank you, Bart. So you are predicting that this transformation will be actually disruptive in healthcare system. And however disruptive it will be, of course, there is, since we are talking about healthcare, a topic of compliance. So I'll go back to Carlo Tacchetti because in Europe, we have this acronym that is TRAIN, that means Trustworthy and Responsible AI Network. That is an element that tells us that compliance is one of the main objectives on which we are working on. Can you tell us what's going on? What does this mean in practical terms?
Well, when I say that we are not deploying solutions, one of the problems is related to responsible AI and compliance with regulations. Now, there are two areas. One is the regulations. We can impact on regulations, trying to suggest the legislator to modify some regulations which are not exactly being designed for healthcare, but mostly for insurance or other things. But once you have the regulation, you have to comply with them. So the point, how do you comply with the regulation? Regulation are GDPR or the ISO 42001, which is the major set of regulation to approve AI solutions, or the AI Act or other national regulations. So you have to read those regulations and find solutions so that once you have a model obtained through AI and you want to deploy it, that model has been obtained and implemented following the regulations. The regulation has something to do with privacy, of course, we have to protect the data of the patients, security, trustworthiness. So once you have a model and the entire process has been, to obtain that model, has been based on standardized protocols, processes, and tools, then at the end, your solution can be reproduced in any time, in any place, by using the common standardized procedure. This standardized procedure requires standardization of how do you acquire the data, how you analyze the data, how you obtain the model, how you validate the model, and then how you deploy the solutions. Now, with the EU Train network, together with other partners, most of which are part of the European University Hospital Alliance, we are the only Italian hospital being part of that alliance, we are trying to find the technical solution. So standard, meaning standardized processes, standardized protocols, and identifying tools. I want to say that we don't have to discover the wheel again. I mean, someone already discovered the wheel. My feeling is that, and this is the way we are actually proceeding in San Raffaele, we have to use the solutions that industry is already providing to us in order to answer the question we think are relevant for us. So by using industry and solutions already present, by applying those solutions in U-Train, let's say, fashion to be compliant with regulations and with ethics, and then at the end the model you have is obtained faster, safer, and in a trustworthy manner. And that's the strategy we are actually following now.
Thank you. Of course, speed of adoption is an important parameter since the innovation is going faster. We are running out of time, so let's get it a little bit quicker. But Bart, you are founder and CEO of this new adventure startup, Isare. One thing that is very particular is that in describing it, you always refer to a Spotify model for healthcare. But which is the link between something connected to healthcare and music?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. So I've been working on commercializing AI since 2010. I think nobody has cracked the nut. Like, there is so much, as you mentioned, papers out there, and there is hardly any really deployment. And I think the reason why is that we have been looking at AI in a very wrong way and looking at it, as I mentioned before, as being software. And software needs a user interface and an application layer. But actually, AI is an algorithm. And what was that led to the creation of Spotify was an algorithm that compressed music so we could distribute it globally. Now, for me, AI is an algorithm that compresses medical knowledge and makes it actionable. So it's a compression algorithm for medical knowledge. So if that is the case, we need to look at it differently, and we need a similar distribution part, which is what we are building, where we have access to all these quality managed algorithms, and we can streamline them in an experience where there is one single user. And that's the analogy to Spotify. I don't want to, like we don't have a playlist or whatever, but we have a workflow. And we can suggest not music, but we suggest AI agents in that workflow. So we are building a new experience, a new way to onboard it. And what we try to do is to shorten the time from innovation and consumption, so we can finally use all that brilliant innovation and save lives and save time for clinicians.
Whichever AI solution we are discussing, the objective is the same, is to get to the patient better care. And San Raffaele is doing a project on AI that is the San Raffaele AI Center, or SRACE in acronym, that is made with Microsoft and exploits how can AI be effective in helping treating patients. Can you tell us a little bit more about this project and how it's going?
Yeah, so we started during the COVID time, like Dr. D'Amelio and Audi said, by deploying the first solution, artificial intelligence model that was able to predict the prognosis of patients before the patient would enter the hospital, so that we would decide which patient to recover, which patient to send home. That process brought us to the idea that success brought us to the idea that we could apply the same solutions to many other diseases. For instance, I'm an oncologist by training. So we contacted again Microsoft, and together with them we designed the infrastructure of an interoperability multi-layer platform that is now deployed, is able to collect data from all the data banks of the hospital, even natural language text by using text analytics, classify all the data according to the major international medical ontologies like UMLS, and then provides a data lake that uses a FHIR standard and a plethora of dashboards for the exploratory data analysis and the modeling. We have already been successful in developing models in lung cancer and kidney cancer. Lung cancer, the question was, can we predict which patient with non-small cell lung cancer PD-L1 positive, which is a subset of lung cancer that expresses a protein, PD-L1. PD-L1 tells to the immune system, do not attack the cancer, just leave it grow. And we have a therapy called pembrolizumab that can counteract this protein, so the immune system is able to attack the cancer and destroy it. Same cancer, same protein, same therapy, you expect 100% of the patient to respond. Instead, we only have 45% of the patient responding. So we want to define who is going to respond and who's not going to respond. Why we want to do that? Trying to be have a better approach to the healthcare system. We are spending money that are not useful for the care of the patient. We are providing side effects that are not useful to patients, who will not respond to the therapy. And moreover, we are not able to identify the course or non-responding patient before giving the therapy. So we cannot test alternative therapies. So this is one of the questions we answered, deploying a model. Now we are in the phase of validation in multicentric studies. And the second model is on kidney cancer, similar type of question. This has already been validated and is now submitted for publication.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
One last minute, one question for you, Bart. We have a graph showing different AI agents that can show us what's maybe a future perspective. So I guess in a moment, the picture will arrive behind us, showing graphically what does it mean, but how can we imagine a future in which more than one AI agent is in function at the same time?
Oh, and I need it in 1 minute?
Yes.
So it's going to be similar to the internet. I talk about the internet of work, where AI agents are connected globally and work for us. And we all are connected by a single primary AI agent, which is the assistant that allows us to communicate with that intelligent network.
Less than a minute.
Well, I tried to show it.
Yes, this is a very interesting perspective and really changing all the way research and healthcare is done. So thank you very much once again, Carlo Tacchetti and Bart de Witte, for being here at Wild Health.
Thank you.
And we are at a few seconds.